All right. It is now 6:01. I'm calling the meeting to order for the October 19th Redevelopment Commission meeting. If staff would please take a roll call.
Chairman Clausen,
Here.
Vice Chair Kendall,
Here.
Commissioner Bigelow,
Here.
Commissioner Updike.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Amanda. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters not on the agenda. The Commission's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Are there any communications from citizens at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I have no requests from requests from communications from citizens.
Thank you. We will now move into administrative item number 1. Consider the approval of minutes for the regular meeting held on June 15th, 2022. Are there any edits the Commission wishes to make? Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 15th?
I move to approve the minutes from June 15th.
I will second that. Sorry, Casey.
All right, and then I'll take a vote to approve. I vote to approve.
Do I do roll call because we're half online, half in person?
Commissioner Bigelow, how do you vote?
I approve.
Commissioner Meehan
Approve.
and Commissioner Kendall.
Approve.
Okay. And
Mr. Chairman, as a point of order, I believe that Commissioner Baugh is also
okay, that's
online.
what I was wondering. Perfect.
Commissioner Baugh, are you online?
Yeah, I'm wearing my finest clothes too.
Excellent. So we continue to have a quorum, but I wanted to make that point of order.
Perfect. Commissioner
And-
Baugh, hello. Welcome.
Hello, and I am an I.
Thank you. All right. Well, next we have a presentation by Sydney Bethel regarding the Heritage District. This is a discussion only, and no action will be taken.
Chair Clausen, can we request that PR 1040 Water Tower Plaza repair and upgrades be presented first by the consultant that's here?
Yes, no problem.
Thank you very much.
Maybe now. Can you hear me now? Oh, there it goes. Okay, or I'll talk really loud. Good evening. So I'm Aaron Allen with J2 Design, landscape architect, working with the town on the Water Tower Plaza Redevelopment Commission, or redevelopment project. Oh, sorry. Okay, so going the right way. So tonight, the request for the Redevelopment Commission is to just provide feedback on some of the preliminary concepts and let us know your thoughts. So we did recently have a public meeting several weeks ago. This is one of the boards that was shown at the public meeting, kind of just giving some overview of to date some of the information. Can you do some? Is that better? Okay. So the biggest driver of why the renovation right now is that there's just a lot of aging infrastructure at the plaza. A lot of these things that were installed originally are first generation technologies. Technologies have come so much further now as far as lighting and pumps and water features and things like that. There's also some other redevelopment projects that are coming that are directly adjacent to it. and going to have an impact on the surrounding. And so looking at those projects such as the Paseo, the Ash Street Realignment, and just how that whole downtown kind of core around Water Tower is going to change in the next few years, the town was going to take that opportunity to look and reimagine how Water Tower Plaza could be. There was a survey that went out a couple months ago, and some of the top 5 amenities from that public survey was shaded picnic areas, restrooms, grassy area for events, food truck connections, and the shaded splash pad. This was just another board that was at the public meeting, just kind of talking about the water usage now at the park, and then in the future, the concepts of just how there's some turf reductions, but it's more functional and usable turf, but overall the water's recirculated and how much kind of water it uses in a responsible way. So as we said, community outreach to date, the Park and Rec board was in June of 2022. There was the public open house with the downtown merchants. And then in August, we did our community survey, got launched, and we had a follow-up public meeting. And then we're here with you tonight. So this is just kind of showing Water Tower Plaza. I don't know if this has a light on it. It does. So maybe behind you, you can kind of see, so Water Tower Plaza here in the center. This is kind of the future Paseo living room, the bridge going over the railroad tracks. You can see here how, the new Ash Street realignment. One of the things that the new Ash Street realignment does is it actually goes through the existing restroom building. That's over by the park and ride. That restroom building is actually needed because of the splash pad is recirculated water. So that's a health code requirement that there's a restroom within a certain distance of that splash pad. So again, another reason that the whole Water Tower Plaza is being reimagined is because how do we situate a new restroom building on that site as well? So here we have some of the preliminary concepts. These were presented at that public meeting. So here we have Concept A. Concept A is tends to be a little bit more what I would call towards the original design intent of Water Tower Plaza, which was to try to create some intimate gathering spaces where you can have, a cup of coffee with a friend, a lunch outside, a smaller gathering, and not feel like you're right on top of somebody in such a small little, less than an acre footprint of land. So this takes, though, and goes a little bit further into incorporating, realizing that the Paseo could have some large events in the living room plaza. How do we create some more flexible event space for the downtown and how the downtown has grown and used now over the last 10 years? So some of the major features of Concept A is an event lawn. The granite ball gets relocated from the corner of Page and Ash to underneath the water tower. A picnic grove here is established on the east side by the alleyway. The new restroom building and pump station is kind of tucked away in the back corner here. That can also kind of serve as that living room plaza restroom potentially. And then the splash pad gets pulled out from underneath the tower and moves to this corner with a kind of event shade structure underneath it. You can kind of see in this image that here's kind of the future Paseo with its bridge connection and how those two would potentially interact. One of the other changes that this does is it takes the head-in parking along Page and it changes it to parallel, kind of offering some additional buffer space from pedestrians and the street, and also allowing kind of an alley of trees along that street frontage. So here are just some views of Concept A. So this is image number 1. If you're standing in that event lawn looking towards the west, you can kind of see on the south side there's some water walls that have been integrated and shown. There's some seat walls that go along the event lawn as well, so you kind of have some of that integrated seating. The lawn is actually sloped from east to west, so 0 entry on the west end. So that's to, if there was an event going on in, say, the living room plaza, you can kind of use that as an event lawn facing that event. Image 2 is flipping you and looking to the east. You can see the water tower on the south side, again with that integrated seating, the water walls to the south, that picnic grove on that far east end. Image number 3 is if you were standing next to the Adobe building looking towards the west into the water tower. They're relocated. Granite ball is now under the water tower. Potentially some different planters around the legs of the tower, creating a little seating area there underneath the tower, and the ability for people to go in, interact with the granite ball. Image number 5 here is if you're kind of on page, looking again back to the south towards the interior of the park. You can kind of see in the background back here, there's that integrated seating that steps up, so you can be sitting either in the event lawn or looking out into the plaza area. Image number 6 shows that new splash pad that's underneath a large shade canopy. The thought here too is that, you know, in bigger events, the splash pad could be turned off and that hardscape area can be recaptured to have a shaded event space for different festivals and things like that. Image number 7 is if you're standing at the corner of Ash and Page, current Ash and Page, looking back into the heart of the plaza. You can kind of see the large shade structure, the splash pad in the background, and then looking towards the south. And then image number 8 is if you're underneath the splash pad, looking towards the water tower and the splash pad. You can see additional hardscape area in there so that you can have that expansion between the living room plaza and the water tower, and having additional seating space, gathering areas. So concept B here takes the event space and basically kind of maximizes it even more. So where concept A was a little bit more having some intimate gathering areas, concept B really takes and says, hey, this is going to be a space that can accommodate really large events. Some of the major features here is the large event lawn with some built-in seating along the west side. So again, thinking about if something is going on, living room plaza, event space, you have that kind of dual purpose opportunity. But then we also have instead of where the picnic grove was, there's another large shade canopy that's kind of raised up. So this could be an opportunity for a band to be on a stage. You could have movies in the park that has a drop-down screen, but when it's not being used for events, you still have that kind of shaded area where tables and chairs can be and people can enjoy, you know, lunch in the park. The splash pad remains underneath the tower as it is today. There are some arbor structures instead of trees and tree grates. There's kind of some arbor structures along Page that kind of give some shade there, but then again, giving a little bit more space back to the park and offering a buffer from the street and traffic. All of the concepts kind of show, you know, this potential interaction with the shade structure that was shown in the living room plaza. So thinking about, again, how these two, we can kind of blur the line between those two developments, and that some sort of structure can be built with Water Tower Plaza that eventually when the living room plaza is built, you know, they have that interaction. So on this one as well, the restroom is in the back corner with that shared kind of pump house for all the mechanical features. There's also a water wall along the south edge, and then a rain curtain along the south edge as well. So here, kind of the same, walking through the site, you have, if you're in the middle of the event lawn and you're looking towards the west, you can kind of see on the south side, the rain curtain, kind of falling water that allows some transparency through it. So if there's landscape behind it and things like that, you can kind of see that translucency. Image number 2 is you're looking back towards the east, towards Gilbert Road, with that shade structure that can also serve again as that informal stage, or then also a picnic and gathering area as well. Image 3 shows just kind of again by the Adobe building if you're standing under the arbors along Page, and image 4 as well, looking back into the interior of the park, and you see the ground sprays underneath the water tower. So here, image 5, you see that the granite ball has been relocated from its current position at Page and Ash and more into the interior of the park space, but still close enough to where you get that east-west traffic flow along Page that people can still interact with it as they walk by. Some of the ground sprays, there was an additional ground spray kind of running out from the water tower more into the plaza space towards the west. That's kind of what's shown on image 6. So again, also thinking that, you know, these are operationally can be shut down so that hardscape can be reclaimed for if there's larger events. Images 7 and 8 kind of show some integrated, again, some seat walls, some integrated seating, so that, you know, if there is an event going on, you could actually be sitting on those seat walls and still be within the action, but not wholly within the action, and seeing everything that's still going on within the park. So here, this should be, if it works. Maybe not. We had a fly-through video of each concept. Not working. Anybody know? I have it on a thumb drive if that we could pull it up. It's a lot easier to see with the fly-through. Oh, there we go. So, thank you. Yeah, so this will be concept A coming first. So you can kind of see as you start to circle around, there was that picnic grove. So this is coming in from Ash Street, showing the shade structure, splash pad. You see the water walls in the background next to that event lawn. There's also a rainwater harvesting bioswale in here adjacent to the lawn. The granite ball underneath the tower with lots of seating around. Looking back towards the Paseo and the future living room plaza, you can kind of see in the far background the restroom and the pump station. Some additional ground sprays that again could be turned off and that space reclaimed for larger events. Looking towards the picnic grove. And then turning south, again, the large water wall, helping to just kind of bring some sound and into the space here. So kind of an arbor type structure that leads you to the restroom entry portal. So with kind of some filtered shade that helps tie into that larger Paseo shade, and then having that larger shade structure over the splash pad. So here, moving on to concept B. So again, there's the shade structure where in concept A it was the picnic grove, but you can see there's ample room underneath that shade structure. The entry coming in, you see the seat walls and how they can be orientated to, if there is something going on in the park, you can be focused there, or if there was something going on within the living room plaza, there's opportunity to be facing both directions. The ground sprays, you know, being redone and repurposed underneath the water tower. Then you can kind of see the difference of the water wall and then where it translates and transforms into the rain curtain. Just how it adds a little bit of transparency to the site. The portal is that little white window into the restroom building. And then again, kind of some tower features that help tie and support the living room plaza shade structure. So again, this would be kind of if you're in the living room area looking back in towards the park. And there was music on here. I'm kind of bummed it's not playing. It's better than hearing my monotonous voice. So then you can kind of see the arbor structures along page as well. So there was, during the open house, everyone was given comment cards, and they were kind of given a sliding scale from 1 to 10. How well would you rank the concept? And then there was a write-in saying, what would you do to give this a higher score? So you can see here that concept A had about average about 7.75. Concept B had a 6.25. And so some of the things that would have given concept A higher score was to bring in historical aspects, shorter water walls, more trees and sitting space, completely eliminate the parking along Page, provide better access to the turf area. And then a lot of people thought that the shade structure was too big and overwhelmed the area. On concept B, it was to improve the score of that. It would be to add more shade, to have an even bigger event lawn, to provide shade over the splash pad, and then to replace the shade structure that's shown on the east side with like trees as the picnic grove in concept A. So from the original community survey, there was over 3,000 plus respondents. So again, those kind of the top 5 amenities was the shaded picnic area, restrooms, grassy area for events, food truck, and shaded splash pad. So from the Parks Board feedback that we've gotten, it is to make sure that's a flexible space for events. They said they'd like to see not solid shade over the splash pad. They'd also said they'd like to remove any of the ground sprays that are kind of outside of the splash pad area, thinking about wet kids and running and how that could interfere maybe with somebody else that doesn't want to have wet kids next to them. So, and then also they wanted to see how the water tower and those other future projects related to each other. So in this model or some of the images, you kind of see how we updated that to show the paseos. So with that, we just want to hear what are some of your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, anybody want to start with some feedback?
Sure. Awesome presentation. Love the video.
And I just want to tell everybody, don't get hung up on, I know those graphics look really fancy and refined and all that stuff, but believe me, this is still all conceptual, and anything and everything can be changed and tweaked and modified. So
Perfect. I've got probably 2 questions and then a few thoughts. Just for a little bit of clarification, on Ash, where the paseo is going to connect over the tracks, that's going to be pedestrian and then also cars going back and forth, or is it just going to be walking foot traffic?
it is only going to be pedestrian, but there is emergency vehicle access.
Okay, perfect. Well, you go a few more slides forward. There was one where it looked like Ash. Yes, it was this one. So going around. Okay, so once you get to that point, you won't be able to put a car there. That'll all be walking space.
Correct.
Okay, perfect. Just want to make sure on that. And then as far as the actual concepts go, I personally like A. I mean, I feel like it has a good flow to it. I feel like there could be things that you could incorporate with Park and Recs, lessening the amount of splash pad valves, or have them more condensed maybe, and then do some light filtering, or whatever the majority of the people want. I think those are all really good ideas. Something that on one of the surveys you had pulled up was implementing something with a little bit more historic background or nature. I feel like the old prison or the jail is there. It's sitting there, and we obviously aren't going to rip it down. What I would love to see is something done with that building, whether it's just make it look, more like a prison where people can look inside it, or, something, or, some literature more about it or whatever. Or I don't know if we're allowed to, can we, improve it or modify it, run some, electrical and plumbing to it, and have it as a, something that somebody can rent out and sell out of. I'm not sure, but it's kind of just sitting there. So I think if we're going to be putting as much time and energy into this whole concept, it would be really cool to see what we aren't allowed to do with that space and do something with it.
We have definitely, as a design team and as Park and Rec, as the client, have all had those conversations and stuff. So it's definitely being thought about and talked about.
Awesome. Other than that, I really like it. I'm glad to see that the cars are parallel parking there. That was my first thought when we were looking at this. So, whether you guys want to keep those there or get rid of them completely, I think it's a great use of space, and it's going to look awesome.
Thank you.
I have a couple of just comments I'd love to share. I think I'm inclined with A. What I love about it is the shade elements, and look where they are. They're all on the essentially the west side, where you have a lot of your evening afternoon shade, which is needed. I don't have a problem that it's big. I think it actually is really valuable to have that much shade. The other comment that I had about the existing what do we call it, the jail space or whatever it was, there's a lot of history there. You've probably heard of like the Miranda rights when you get arrested. That was a case that came out of this area, and I might be using a lot of folklore, and I don't know if that actually, somebody was stored in that room or not. But I just think the history of that, that little prison or whatever you want to call it, jail room, is probably pretty valuable. The one thing I didn't really like about B, well, a couple of things, but that water wall falling, just the consistency of that water wall going up and down. And maybe this is totally irrelevant compared to a splash pad and a water ball. Just seemed like I can see more utility out of the splash pad and the ball as opposed to that water wall. Now that we're kind of entering or have entered in tier 2 water conservation. I love the utilization of the first version of the plan of the green space for an event area. I could see that even being, I don't know if the town would ever rent that out privately, but I could see that being utilized easier for private events as opposed to a big green space, the round one in the second plan. And this is just a comment about both plans. We have parallel parking shown on both versions of those plans. And isn't it today, it's perpendicular today, right?
It's a kind of a diagonal head in.
I mean, sorry. It's angled parking today. That's what I meant to say. And how many spaces, and I don't know if you know this answer, but I'm just curious how many spaces you lose by going to parallel as opposed to angled parking. Because when I look at that space and when I drive and I go to Liberty Market, all those areas, that's the first place where people want to park. So we're taking away parking spaces out of probably one of the most desired, utilized access roads in that area. So there's probably a smart reason for you wanting to do the parallel parking, but I just think you get so much better utilization out of that angled. I hate to see that go away.
Yeah, I think originally out there right now, I believe there's 11 to 12 spots or so right now, and so yeah, we're showing 5. So it does get cut down by about half. One of the drivers behind it was one to create that. Right now, with all the parking there, you are pretty close to the street, and so we were trying to create a little bit more of a pedestrian thoroughfare, knowing that the Paseo, when that comes along, is going to be a really major pedestrian heavy access corridor going through the entire downtown. And then when you do get to Page, you're going to be trying to get over to Gilbert Road, to all the restaurants and things that are on Gilbert Road. So trying to give that a wider berth and keep pedestrians and kids and things like that farther from the street. The other thing was that the Paseo plan itself was showing converting Page Street further down to the west as all parallel parking is too. So just trying to follow a little bit of that precedence and having those two plans kind of merge and talk to each other. But not to say that it couldn't go either way.
Thank you.
If I could jump in here real quick. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Great presentation. I really enjoyed like seeing it from the top and from the ground view. I've actually was in the selection process for the contractor, and with Amanda, I'm not quite sure if we're allowed to announce who that is. So I won't do that, but I will say that the presentations that we received from the contractors that were selected to go to that final phase were vetted extremely well. And I believe it was a unanimous decision to select a specific contractor to take on this project. And there was a lot of attention paid to the structure of the tower. I mean, it is the symbol of our town, or it has become the symbol of our town. And so I think that the attention to that that it's being paid, and to the granite ball and how special that is really going to put a lot of citizens at ease. I believe, going back to what Commissioner Bigelow brought up, I believe the Adobe building is or will be used as a pump house for the water feature. At least that's kind of what I heard. I appreciate the tying together of the Paseo and the future projects. And I actually like concept A, and I agree with Commissioner Baugh about these shade structures being on the east side, because it will cast that longer shadow as the sun goes down. But if you look at the structure, or the potential structure on the west side, within the last 2 years, we voted on a building that was going to be in excess of 60 something feet. So I think if the shade is on that side, it has potential to really close off the area, or make it seem like skyscrapers from the ground, essentially. In regards to the parking, I mean, there's like 5 spaces there. I agree again with Commissioner Baugh that it's 5. I don't know if that really even matters versus like 11 in a diagonal setting. I also think that we need to be very, very careful with the alleyway in there. That's a lot narrower, in my opinion, than it appears to be in the graphic. So I think that there'll be a lot of communication between Norwoods and Liberty and the other businesses in that area too during this project. That is all I had. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you also for the great presentation. I also am more drawn towards concept A. I feel like that option did a great job of honoring some of those symbols that mean so much to people in our community, while also rejuvenating it in a way that, you know, we're not married to the past, but we are honoring it, and we're moving forward with something that I think is great. One thing that I like about it is that it has all those smaller meeting spaces, which is how that area is used a lot right now. I've had 100 play dates under that water tower with my kids. I can tell you I've let them play way too long, and when I'm throwing them in the car and they're very hungry, I wouldn't want to get out of a parallel parking spot situation. That can be stressful for a mom with hungry kids, and they will be at that splash pad. So 5 spots or 10 spots, they'll be full. So I would say I would recommend the angled parking, but I liked the larger mass of the shade structure as well. That's the funny part of design. You provided that large mass of shade structure, and people said, you know, they didn't like the shade structure, but option B, they wanted more shade structures. So that's the beauty of how it can be interpreted by people. But yeah, your west, your south, that's where you're going to get your sun, your heat. You know this, and I feel like you did a great job representing that with concept A, shade structure. So I didn't love the circular event space in option B. It didn't feel connected. I couldn't follow the lines personally. So the circle just didn't feel like it worked with the rest of the spaces, so I couldn't follow how it would be used. It felt like it was either going to be dedicated to events on event days, or it would be used for the walkarounds and the splash pad. I didn't see how it could maybe all be utilized at the same time, my perspective. But the fly-arounds were great, and I appreciated the presentation, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, great job. it's clear that you put a lot of time, thought, effort into the design, and I thought the fly through was great. I think first I've got a couple of questions. So like the shade structures that are shown on both concept A and concept B, have the materials that those would be built out of been solidified, or are those still kind of wide open?
Yep.
Wide open. Yeah.
It was really just to kind of be placeholders of showing people like, here's what a big massive shade could look like here versus here, and maybe how it's functioning, making them look a little bit different so that people could comment on, I kind of like the look of this one a little bit better versus say the look of this one, and start gearing towards some design direction.
Got it. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, because I think having a large shade structure like on concept A, I mean, first of all, I think there are pros and cons and things I like on both of them. I don't think that shade structure is too large on concept A, and in fact, I think with the right material choice, it can appear or seem a lot smaller than it may actually be. So that's not a big concern to me. It does look like on concept A and B, we do lose some parking spaces also in the alleyway. Is that accurate?
That is correct. Yep.
And
one of the reasons, the thought behind that was that a lot of times those spaces that are on that east edge of the park are really underutilized, because a lot of times there's delivery trucks and things like that going into that alley. And so just from a kind of overall thinking about the safety of how that's like loading zone and kind of back of house for some of these folks, to really almost eliminate those, to again gain some spots or some space back into the park and give that buffer just from a safety perspective of the bigger trucks and smaller cars and things like that.
So yeah, my next couple comments kind of go hand in hand. I tend to agree with Commissioner Baugh on the loss of the head-in parking spaces on page. If we have 12 and we're cutting it down to 5, any loss of parking, I think, could be viewed negatively. People learn to adapt and figure out where parking is, so it's not a big deal at the end of the day. But and to be honest, I think your answer is the exact correct reason why you did show it, and you were connecting it to parallel spots that are to the east. So I like that. So now I'm good with the parallel. But along that conversation, also losing the spaces along the alley, we are showing what looks to be some dedicated food truck parking. What are the dimensions of the food truck parking, and is that more of a permanent hookup for the food trucks? Are there services there for them to hook up, or is it just a dedicated hardscaped area for food trucks?
It was just going to be, here's some, because that was one of the things that we heard from the survey was, during events, they'd like some food trucks. So kind of thinking about, here, that would be a good area next to the picnic grove. So if there's an event going on and special event, food trucks could come. There's room for them to kind of safely be at the edge of the park, to where they're not going to be conflicting with other things out in the street or taking up parking stalls and things like that. But really thinking about it as a temporary location that they could be, and just providing, maybe there's an electrical hookup, maybe there's not, maybe they do run on generators, kind of to be determined.
Yeah, so I guess it would be interesting to look at just the dimensions that you've provided for there, and as it relates to the existing parking spaces. I think it'd be kind of unique to explore the idea of maintaining the parking spaces during much of the time that people are visiting downtown Gilbert, but having the ability to flex into parking for food trucks also could be a unique way to handle it, and not necessarily lose spaces in many of the hours during the day. And then also just to comment, I would ask, the town to think about the food truck program. I know that the tenants in downtown Gilbert, they spend a pretty penny to have locations down there, and the accessibility for food trucks is definitely has a potential to eat into their business. So, but I think overall, I think it's a great plan. And you spent a lot of time on it. It looks great. I lean towards A as well. And I think the connectivity to the living room plaza is great. and I'm excited to see where it goes. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Just a thought. First off, I feel like A's going to be a little bit more expensive than B, but that's okay because it looks great. And I feel like everyone's leaning that direction. I feel like the biggest draw to B, if I was to look at like just the overall concept and, you know, kind of the sales pitch or the pitch that you had was that it's more open for a concert type situation. If we on concept B, if we raise that platform up and made it level with the grass, is there a way that you could kind of implement that aspect into concept A? Just an idea to where you still could have like those theaters or those events or, you know, the projection screen and the movie night. Just kind of an idea.
And that's actually been something that has kind of been kicked around after we've gotten some different feedback and stuff like that, is that, you know, potentially maybe this picnic grove here over on this end does kind of become elevated, so it kind of flows better into the lawn area and things.
I like that, and I feel like that's one of the biggest like draws and one of the most attractive aspects of concept B. And so if we could implement that somehow in here, and even though that oval shaped one probably has a larger square footage of grass, I feel like just having this rectangle shape there is actually a better use of the space to get more people to gather for an event of any type. So just my last little 2 cents.
Thank you.
All right, yeah. Is anybody, Commissioner Kendall or Ba, or do you have any more comments?
I do not. I really appreciate the work that's gone into this. It's fun to see the types of design concepts that you guys can create. I appreciate the work.
Commissioner Bob, to your comment, Stacy Brimhall grew up and his dad was one of the original farmers here in Gilbert, and he spent 2 nights in that jail cell for throwing bullfrogs at cotton trucks. So there's your memo or your story for the prison.
That's great. That's a good one.
Somebody actually, it was probably that gentleman that wrote that down as a comment at the public open house. So,
yeah. Excellent, Mr. Allen. Thank you.
Yes, just some of the next steps, just so everybody knows. There's going to be the town council, the fall retreat in December, and then we'll be coming back to you in December as well. So, and just if you have other additional questions or something comes to you while you're sleeping and you want to shoot it off, there's my contact information. And then we also have Sydney from Heritage District Economic Development. The CIP project manager is Rick Hooker, and then from Parks and Rec, Jenica and Sean. So we can all be here to answer questions. That's it. So thank you.
Thank you again. All right. Well, with that, we do have a presentation by Sydney Bethel regarding the Heritage District. This is a discussion only, and no action will be taken.
Sorry, Erin's quite a bit taller than me. So. Good evening, Commissioner. Sydney Bethel Price with the Office of Economic Development. Since we did close out fiscal year 22 in July and we've had some time to reflect on the numbers and accomplishments that we did in that year, we just wanted to provide the Commission an update on items that were accomplished in the Heritage District and by the Redevelopment Commission over the last fiscal year. So here's just a snapshot of where the Heritage District is on the left-hand side and where we're going on the right-hand side. So approximately there's about 1 million square feet of existing development in the Heritage District. So this is excluding single-family homes, but includes all multifamily and commercial developments. We currently have 9 active CIP projects that are either within the district or bisect the district, and there's about 30.2 acres of land that is vacant and is existing in the Heritage District today. So as of the end of fiscal year 22, we do have about 840,000 square feet of approved development, mostly attributed to the Heritage Park project, 25 planned CIPs through fiscal year 23 to fiscal year 33. And with these private and public projects taken into account after they're completed, there will be approximately 16 acres, it's estimated, in the Heritage District that will be remaining after the completion of these public and private projects. So we just kind of wanted to touch base here on some of the financial numbers that we collected over fiscal year. So to provide an overview again, just with fiscal year, this is from July 21 to July 22. That's what these numbers reflect. So in the Heritage District, we do several metrics in order to measure our return on investment, because the town does do some substantial investments to the Heritage District. So up here, we have the increase in Heritage District value per acre. As you can see, from FY21 to FY22, we had a 23% increase in value per acre. What that equates to is in the Heritage District for FY21, it was approximately $1.2 million dollars per acre. And then now in FY22, we're looking at a little over $2 million per acre in the Heritage District. As you can see here, we benchmarked the Heritage District with a buffer area that's surrounding there so that we can have a comparison of the difference between the downtown area and the surrounding developments. So in red there on the graph, you're going to see the Heritage District, and then in green, you can see the buffer area and a map to show the comparison. So the Heritage District has been outpacing the value of the surrounding buffer area since approximately 2000, I believe it's 2014. On here, but it's not shown on the map. So as you can see, these investments and the long-range vision that we have in the downtown does have substantial payoff as we continue to grow the district. So here's just another measurement of those items for the return on investment. Here showing Heritage District sales tax. As you can see from FY21 to FY22, we had a substantial increase of about $500,000. We have quite a large number that I have down there, which is the 10-year increase. So from FY12 to FY22, we've seen approximately a 313% increase in sales tax generation in the Heritage District. And from our numbers this year, the Heritage District accounts for approximately 1.2% of all sales tax collected in Gilbert. So I'm going to dive into here of items that the Redevelopment Commission reviewed in the last year. So in this last fiscal year, you did approve 3 projects. These were all design review projects, and you provided recommendations or reviewed 6 additional projects. So I'm just going to kind of dive into where those projects are at now. You guys put a lot of hard work into reviewing those projects and providing recommendations. So just to provide an update on what's happening. So the first one, Chimino Gelato. So that project you did see a few months back, that's currently in CD review. So hopefully we'll see that project come to fruition soon. Same thing with Heritage North. Now it's renamed Heritage Park. That is also in construction document review as well. And as you probably have seen in the downtown, the park, or OSO Park, is now open. So it did go through the review process, go under construction, and opened as of August of 2022 in the downtown. So with Gelato Chimino, as you may remember, there was a number of conditions of approval that the Redevelopment Commission provided to approve the design review. This was to ensure that the project met the standards that are expected in the Heritage District and aligned with the design guidelines and the Land Development Code. So up there, I'm just showing you a before. So on the top portion, that's the front elevation facing Gilbert Road, in which was part of the original design review. And then after they came back to the staff, they resubmitted to the planning staff prior to submitting for construction documents. On the bottom is their after they went through a couple reviews with them and incorporated the conditions of approval and modified the building based off of the direction of the Redevelopment Commission. As you see there, some of the major improvements are facade changes, which you can't see on the site plan, but I've outlined in the bullet points. So there's major improvements to the patio area, lighting, landscaping, some of the major concerns that were addressed by the commission during that time. So this one's an exciting one since you can go there right after this today and grab a drink if you wanted to. So the park is fully constructed and opened, I believe it was August 10th. They have a wide variety of free events that are there, along with the ability to purchase beverage there. So they do have movie days, live music, cornhole tournaments. They have a dog run area where you can have your dog off leash. And as you see in the bottom left-hand corner, this was a big item that was discussed. They do have new restroom buildings in review currently with our building division. So as you remember, the project was approved without restroom buildings. They did have approved access into the existing OSO and met that threshold in order to utilize their restroom facilities as a connected development, but it was encouraged that they do have restrooms. So they did come back ultimately and decide they did want to have restrooms in their development. So that will be located right on the west side. Had to get my directions there, right up against the Barlow offices. They will have a restroom building there. So hopefully we'll see that under construction soon. And again, just a brief update on Heritage North, or Heritage Park, as it's now called. It is also in construction document review, like Chimino Gelato. We don't have an estimated groundbreaking date, but we're hoping that they can work through review comments and we can see that project happen soon. And now I just want to dive into the 6 additional projects or items that you either provided a formal recommendation on or reviewed. So again, with Heritage Park, that was quite a hefty project for you guys because it's quite a hefty project altogether. So in addition to approving the design review, you guys provided a recommendation on the rezoning that was ultimately approved by council, and also 2 separate recommendations on 2 conditional use permits that were required for the site. And those were ultimately approved by the Planning Commission. On the bottom, we have the Land Development Code update, in which you guys provided feedback based off of items that were related to the Heritage District in the code. So that code has been adopted for almost a year now, which is very exciting. We also have Water Tower Way, or the Paseo, where you provided feedback on the 15% plans. And then again, the park also required a conditional use permit, and that was ultimately approved by the Planning Commission. So up here, we just have a slide showing some of the new businesses that have entered our district. So on the top row, I know those ones have all been long awaited with the CoLab building. Those are all located on the ground floor of CoLab. Rumble Boxing is now open, with the other 3 expected to open by November 1st, with different opening dates happening throughout the month. On the bottom row, you can see a wide variety of projects, the park included, but we also have Gypsy Cup Coffee, the bar, and Not Your Typical Deli, which did relocate to the Heritage District, which is a local Gilbert business that was over near these offices. So we're very excited that all these businesses decided to invest in the Heritage District and call us their home in the last year. And we do have the announcement of 2 businesses that are coming soon. So we do have Prep and Pastry. This is going to be a new brunch dining establishment that will be located where Bayou Creole Kitchen previously was located, on the bottom of 313. So they're currently in construction document review for their tenant improvements and have already started demo. And then Big Chicken, which is a fast casual chicken dining establishment, which will be located where Pomo was previously in Heritage Marketplace. So there are quite a few CIP projects that were completed in fiscal year 22. So up here, you're going to see 6 projects. Some of these are Heritage District specific, like the Paseo, but a lot of them are either townwide or they bisect the downtown. 5 out of the 6 of these were studies or pre-designs that were completed. And the number 1 is the Heritage District ADA sidewalk repairs, in which we upgraded the sidewalks and repaired the sidewalks and ramps in the Lacey Track neighborhood, located in the southwestern portion of the Heritage District, which is one of our oldest neighborhoods in all of Gilbert. I believe it was platted in 1917. So we're very excited to be able to upgrade those areas and create an inclusive environment for all. So capital improvement projects are a main way in which projects are completed in the Heritage District, but we did have a number of miscellaneous projects which were completed through different avenues that happened last year. So up here, I just have a sampling of some of the different projects that were created. As you can see, this ranges from the addition of new parking to placemaking opportunities to upgrades to crosswalks. So there's a number of items that are happening every day by staff as well that are completed in order to build a better downtown. So currently right now we have 6 capital improvement projects that are taking place in the Heritage District or impact the district. As you can see, a majority of these have to do with improvements to water lines that are in the Western Power Line Canal. But as you just saw, there is Water Tower Plaza, and you just recently reviewed that in the university building there as well. So some exciting vertical projects. So this map here is just a visual representation of the 25 plus projects that are planned in the Heritage District over the next 10 years. And we sorted them by fiscal year and put them on a map so you can kind of see as the years go by where the district is going to be under construction and what's going to be completed. So there are quite a few projects that are on the horizon, and we're very excited to continue to improve and invest in the district. So I just briefly touched on the university building, but that project is a build out of the 4th floor of the university building for the University of Arizona. As you probably heard last year, there was an announcement of their expansion to the 4th floor. They are already an existing university in the building along with Park University in order to expand their nursing program. So we're very excited to welcome them. They do already have students in there with the 4th floor that I believe. It hasn't been closed out officially because they're still closing out a few items on that build out, but they will have an official grand opening in November. So the university building is an important component to our higher education initiative with the town of Gilbert. So that initiative was started in 2012, and as of this year, the university building houses 2 separate universities, U of A and Park U, and has approximately 750 students enrolled. So very exciting to provide the educational opportunity in our town. So here we're just a sampling of events that were completed. We have some members from Parks and Rec here today. So we have a phenomenal Parks and Rec team, and they have a division that specifically specializes in these special events. And they put on all of these events this year that you see in the downtown. So we're very excited to be able to have those to not only provide an amenity for our residents in the district, but all our residents in Gilbert and those who would like to come visit the district as well. And in case you missed some of those last year, don't worry, a lot of them are happening again this year. We have quite a few events that are happening until the end of the fiscal year, things ranging from movies in the park, which there is one this weekend, I believe. I think they're doing Ghostbusters. We have Concerts in the Park series, which has been occurring in October and also will be occurring in November at Water Tower Plaza. We have Gilbert's Day Parade, where the actual parade portion takes place in the Heritage District on November 19th. And we have the iconic Water Tower holiday lighting, which will take place on November 28th. So I hope that you guys have a chance to come out and attend some of these events, and make sure to say a big thank you to all your staff that are out there. And we just wanted to highlight a few awards that we won in the last year. So we were very excited that we won a couple awards from the American Planning Association. So the first one, our Heritage District Design Guidelines, won in Best Ordinance Legislation or Adopted Policy for 2022. In 2021, we didn't highlight this, but we are very excited to also receive a separate award from the American Planning Association for Great Public Places, which was quite an honor as well. But this year, we also did win an award from the International Downtown Association's the Pinnacle Award for our Heritage District Design Guidelines. So that was quite an honor to win those awards on a national scale. And again, I want to remind that that effort was completed internally by 2 staff members, a very small budget, and a lot of hard work. So very proud of those. And that's all I have for you guys. And I'm here for any questions.
Thank you very much, Sydney, and to all the staff. You guys are rock stars. I mean, yeah, you guys are rock stars. So congratulations on the awards. Anybody have any questions for Sydney?
Just a quick comment. I appreciate Sydney and her openness and her candor and feedback all throughout my time with the commission and in fact all of the staff. And the awards are very quite well deserved, and I appreciate all that they do and the support that they offer us, not only as a community but as a board. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Sydney. Are there, I don't have any updates tonight. Are there any communications from our council liaison, Councilmember Tilke? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. I have several updates because it's been a while since I've been here to update you. First of all, thanks Sydney, for putting together that program. I think it's always important that we get to take a moment and reflect on the great work we've done as a team, not only the commission but the staff, but then also see what's coming up. So thank you for that. I give several liaison reports to different committees, so if I've told you this already, I'm going to apologize. So sometimes I forget which one I told, but our Community Engagement Task Force has been working very hard, and their first topic that they want to delve into is mental health and suicide. And so you'll be seeing some more information coming in about that and how we're going to kind of close the gaps and help people within our community. And so that's the topic they chose to move forward with. Last night at our council meeting, we approved a subcommittee for communications, and I'll be chairing that. And the objective for that is to better understand how we can communicate not only with each other on the dais, but how we communicate better with our citizens, and so how we can improve that process with their feedback. So we'll be reaching out to you and to those in the community to get feedback on that, because it's a very important part of what we do. And we do great things, but we can also improve in that area just a little bit. We also approved some action on our, I always call it 911, but it's police dispatch expansion here that will take us long into the future. And so we'll be seeing more coming along in that. We also approved the, I guess it's a lease contract with the Giving Machine again downtown. And so they will be there from November 6th through January 2nd. One of the things we are dealing with, and just like you are in your own businesses, is the escalating cost of construction projects and lead times. And so we're going to be spending a lot of time looking at that as we go along. I'm sure even the project that we just looked at is going to be looking at that as we move forward. And so it kind of ties into another thing that we approved is the Vaughn ventilator and the base, and we're combining those two projects for cost efficiencies. And so we approved some dollars for on the design to combine both those projects. And so I want to do another shout out to Sydney and the team. I know, Sydney, you did a lot of work in looking at all the projects that touch downtown and making sure that we're connecting those, and we're going to be able to combine them for efficiency and dollar savings. And that was a big, heavy lift. So thank you. I know you didn't do it alone. I know there was other people, but I know you took charge for that, so thank you. Also, we've received a report in the last month on, we benchmarked ourselves against other communities in the valley, and we continue to come up as the lowest in fees, taxes, yet the highest level of services that we provide. So we're always proud of that, and we continue to strive to be the best in class. Couple of events that are coming up. Veterans Day, November 10th at 5:30 at the Gilbert Regional Park, which is open to the entire community. And then our Gilbert Sister Cities Friendship Garden event is November 16th at 6 p.m. That'll be down in the garden area for at the Gilbert Regional Park. And I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and just a side note, I came directly to this meeting from the Heritage District, and I was with a business looking to locate within the Heritage District. And I can honestly say this is the only municipality or, you know, planning economic development that I can actually use as a sales point and actually drive a conversation home. And you guys are a selling point for any business that is looking to locate out here, and it's the only place in Arizona that I can do that in. So yeah, kudos to you guys, and you guys worked really hard. Commissioners, do we have any updates from anybody on the phone or here in person? Good. All right. Amanda, is there a report from staff?
Mr. Chairman, I have no other additions. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. It's good seeing everybody. Meeting is adjourned. It's 7:06 p.m. Thanks.